New NBC News has learned the Trump administration is preparing to fire hundreds of high-level employees within the Department of Homeland Security. Three sources familiar with the matter say the administration has a, quote, centralized plan and a list of people in high-level positions across every component of DHS who would be let go this week. The new firings would come in addition to hundreds of cuts that began across DHS on Friday night. Joining us now, NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley. Julia, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, Mika, this is separate from what we've been talking about with DOJ and the big push to try to really downsize the federal government. This is a list that was identified by the transition team and then the landing team of Trump loyalists who came into DHS. And they're looking even across ICE and CBP as Trump tries to make good on this campaign promise of mass deportations. What they want to do is take out high-level employees. We know Washington speak. They're called SES, Senior Executive Service. These are people in manager positions, policy people, strategy people who are coming up with how they're going to carry out the wishes of the administration and their career. Many of them served under the first Trump administration, served under Biden, and they're still here now. But it's anyone who isn't seen not only not obstinate, but someone who's not loyal to Trump. And if they haven't gone far enough to show that loyalty, a lot of these people could now be fired. We understand that they're across every component of DHS.
How do they show their loyalty? Like, well, how do they assess this?
If there's anything in a meeting where they feel like they're not on the same page, if there's any suspicion they may have leaked, even if it's just a confirmation of something pretty basic to the media. There are a number of ways that they've come up with this list. If they don't think that they've told their subordinates to carry out the plans and the wishes, these are now people on this target list.
So talk about what the impact of that actually is within the agency, and what are the career folks telling you as they watch their counterparts or even themselves on the chopping block here?
You know, I've heard it's a really scary time, even for former people who stay in touch with their colleagues. They're told, look, I can't even have you on my phone records right now. There's such an insular place right now for people who want to keep their jobs and want to keep doing the jobs that they've been doing, and many times for, more than 10 years, even more than DHS has only been around since 2003, but a lot of people who really feel that they've devoted their careers to this and want to keep doing that. It's really similar to what we saw over the weekend, too, when immigration judges were fired. It doesn't seem to make sense when you want a big-scale deportation force in this country and you want more people out. Why would you get rid of the judges? Why would you get rid of people at ICE and CBP? But the idea here is they want short-term pain in order to have a long-term gain of putting people in these positions that they think will make the decisions they want.
Yeah, and David, I wanted to follow up with what Annan was saying, but also draw it into this conversation where we're talking about effective leaders being fired if they somehow don't pass some loyalty test. And again, the silence of other people that may have worked in that agency before not coming to their defense. I talked about generals, and General Mattis, can you imagine, would have been unimaginable up until a little less than a month ago, that you would have the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, one of the most highly decorated generals of our generation, sacrificing time and again for this country, getting his portrait taken down, getting his security removed from him when he's the #2 target, I think, right now for Iran because of the killing of Soleimani. And it's dead silence. I've heard nothing from General Mattis. I've heard nothing from other admirals. I've heard nothing, nothing collectively from a group of retired generals and admirals who you think would be the first people to come out and say, hey, this is a man who gave his adult life to protecting and defending this country, one of the highest ranked generals and one of the most decorated soldiers of our time, and yet just silence.
Joe, as you said earlier, the silence is deafening when it comes to General Milley. I have asked senior military leaders, current and retired, if they wouldn't say something about this situation, and the answer is no. There are all sorts of reasons for that, but the basic reality is what you say. It's silence, and silence in this case is acquiescence. And we may not be through with the stories at the Pentagon. Wait a week. You may see more instances of political retribution against senior military officers. And the point I would make, Joe, is that what we're seeing across the government, it looks so new, but it's really the reimposition of what in the 19th century was called the spoils system, which means it's winner take all. If the president wins, he can fire everybody and put in his own political loyalists, and there are no protections. And then we had reform. We had Teddy Roosevelt. That was his great issue, was we need clean government and we need a professional civil service. That's how we got his start. But you're seeing that idea wiped out as we return to a Trump-Musk spoil system with enormous cost for each of these agencies.
Wow.
Absolutely.
NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley, thank you very much for your reporting this morning.